welcome to the 2017 photography show here at the BenQ booth. Glyn Dewis, a very well-known photographer from UK. Hi Glyn, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely, yeah. I guess I'm a photographer. I've got a jack of all trades. I'm a photographer, an educator, and I'm really pleased now to say I'm an author as well. So I work with commercial clients. I've got people like the BBC and Sky that I've worked with in the past, but also normal people, regular people. But also I educate, so I do occasional workshops, one-to-ones and things like that. I actually never ever meant to be a photographer, Jason. It was never was something I ever thought of. But I had an uncle in my family who was always the family photographer. And when we were children, he was always the man that would turn up with the camera. But I was never interested. I remember going back maybe 10 or 11 years, I went to visit my parents, and my uncle was there with his camera as usual and his laptop. And he called me over because he knew I liked computers, and he said, look at this, and he showed me a picture of one of our family members, and he showed me how we could get rid of red eye using Photoshop. So my initial interest in photography came from Photoshop, so I started as a retoucher, and that went on for a number of years, but then I kind of got to the stage where I thought, I think I can do better. So I got my own camera and I kind of just went from there. So I started as a retoucher, then the photography came, and now it's kind of reversed, that I'm more the photographer than the retoucher, I guess.
So what do you think are your proudest achievements as a photographer?
Well, I guess I think maybe for me it was becoming an instructor for Kelby One. That they used to be called the Photoshop National Association of Photoshop Professionals. There's a guy called Scott Kelby who heads those in the States. Very famous guy. And when I first started, I made the decision to go to America to learn how to use Photoshop. And I saw Scott and I thought, oh, one day I'd like him to know my name. So then you fast forward a number of years, and I'm working hard, developing my style, getting my stuff out there, and completely out of the blue I had a phone call from Scott Kelby. And he invited me to teach in America for the organisation Kelby One, which is where I started to learn. So that for me, I'm now inducted into the association of like the instructors for Kelby One. That for me, I think is probably the biggest thing so far.
What makes a good photograph?
A good photograph is one that people don't just skip by. You know, nowadays with digital media we have iPads, and what you don't want is people to do this, to skip past pictures. What you want is someone to go, stop and look at it. So I guess really what you want from a good photograph is it needs to be telling you some kind of a story. Now I'm not a photographer who gets really heavy and is really all kind of arty, but it needs to be able to tell you something. You need to have somebody to look at the picture and go, wow, I wonder what that person's thinking, or what's happened there. And it's almost like it's frozen a moment and you want to know more about it.
You want to make an impact on it.
Yeah, emotion, all those kind of words. Just because it's lit really well with great lighting and composition, that doesn't mean it's a great picture. There's much more to it. I've seen pictures that have got terrible lighting, but they're brilliant pictures because of what you feel from it, the story that's there, you know.
How do you educate yourself to take very good photographs?
Very kind. I am always trying to educate myself. I think I'm very grounded, and from day one I've always, any magazine, any book, any DVD, any online training, I'm always looking to do stuff. But the biggest thing I do, and this is what I advise people to do now, is to constantly practice. You never ever know everything, but if you constantly practice, that's when you find out what works and what doesn't work, and that's what you learn from your mistakes. So by constantly doing stuff, that's probably the best way of doing it.
You must have certain recommendations in terms of the software you use, the hardware, tools. Is it okay to share with the viewers?
Yeah, of course, yeah. Software-wise, I was brought up using Photoshop, so I used my actual image editing. I use Photoshop and a combination of Photoshop and Lightroom. Cameras, at the moment, I'm using Canon.
Okay.
We'll say no more. And then there's the behind-the-scenes kit. I guess things like I use Wacom tablet for editing on. I don't know how people retouch using a mouse. I have no idea how to do that. So get a tablet, and then I've got my monitor, which, funnily enough, is a SW320.
Yes.
Nice big screen, very clear.
From BenQ.
From BenQ. And I use that monitor for my editing as well. So, yeah.
what are your tips of choosing a good monitor? Like the one you use, the SW320. BenQ.
Nice big monitor. Yeah.
Currently satisfied with it.
I mean, we've mentioned briefly, but I am extremely happy with it. And I'm not just saying that because we're talking now, but I've had other monitors in the past, and what I had to do before was to send away images to a lab. I'd get them coming back, and then I'd look at the image in my hand and then look at the screen and say, well, what needs to be changed? Even though I'd calibrated the screen, and I'd have to make some changes in Photoshop and record that as an action to then send away. So that's what I had to do to the pictures every time. But now, and obviously I've very recently started using the new monitor, it's the first time that I've actually calibrated a screen, sent away images to the lab, and they've come back, and there is no difference, virtually no difference. So I'm extremely happy with that monitor in particular.
Oh, that's nice to hear. Thank you for your time.
Not at all, Jason. It's an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Bye-bye.